As you travel the path of knowledge, your connection to the Force grows stronger.
Yes, Master.
Hello my dear friends, and welcome back to another Star Wars video. So over the last couple of days I've been covering the major Star Wars reveals from San Diego Comic-Con, but today my friends, we have something a bit different. Star Wars Visions Volume 3 drops on October the 29th, and the official trailer shown at Star Wars Celebration in Japan has resurfaced, but this time it's not from someone who filmed it on their phone. This is an HD look, courtesy of a couple of fan accounts. Now I should just say, whenever the Star Wars YouTube page drops the final public trailer, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a bit different from the Celebration footage. That tends to be the case. When they showed the original Ahsoka Season 1 montage back in 2022, I think it was, it varied from the public trailer. So the Visions montage shown in Japan might be slightly different. Nonetheless, it's all footage taken from Season 3. And today, my friends, we also have some information about the episodes, as well as some new and returning characters. So let's take a look. Now, the interesting thing about Star Wars Visions is that the first two volumes gave us a plethora of different flavors. There was anime, there was stop motion, varying kinds of cartoon styles, and no two episodes were the same. They all had a different vibe, different tone, different time periods, different kinds of Force users, Ronins, Jedi, Sith. But for the third volume, in many ways they are returning to the first season, and two of the episodes are literal continuations. For instance, we're getting a sequel to the episode The Duel, in an episode titled The Duel Payback, as well as a second installment of The Ninth Jedi. And in case you're out of the loop, The Ninth Jedi is getting its own spin-off series, coming in 2026. And another great thing about Volume 3 is that we are seeing the return of some of the best Season 1 studios. Trigger, Kamikaze, and Project IG. But I should say, in the same line as Visions Volume 2, this season is taking some pretty bold strides. There's an episode titled Bounty Hunters, and these rogues have nothing to do with the ones we know from canon. We're not talking about Boba Fett, Embo, or Bosk. We're talking about some pretty unique and crazy character designs. I guess Visions is the place to give you a very what the F am I watching kind of vibe, and doing something with Star Wars that you would never dare to do in the main shows and movies. Droids breaking apart in outer space, being literal transformers and becoming weapons and ships, giant teddy bears in space outfits reminiscent of Studio Ghibli, and taking great liberties in terms of the capabilities of an AT-AT. But it goes without saying, none of this is canon. This isn't even Legends continuity. This is in its own category known as Star Wars non-canon. Nothing relates to the main Skywalker saga. And in a sense, that's why you can have a bit more fun with Visions. Just enjoy it for what it is. Don't take it seriously. Some shorts are inevitably going to be better than others, but no matter what, even though I'm not the biggest fan of anime and Star Wars Visions, I'm always left with the feeling, well, I was different, and I think that's a good thing. I think it's healthy, creatively speaking, to really think outside the box and be presented with new stories in the galaxy and the franchise that you love that really break all your assumptions about Star Wars. As an experiment of creative liberty, I think Star Wars Visions is awesome. It's also proof that Star Wars can take itself seriously in other mediums. In a way, I always liken Visions to Star Wars Infinities, the comics from the 2000s that gave us an alternate version of the original trilogy. In a way, maybe The Last Jedi fits better here. A what-if, non-canon scenario where Luke Skywalker exiled himself. So the episode titles for the third season are as follows. Like I said, we have a sequel to the original The Duel. This one is The Duel Payback. Then we have The Lost Ones, The Ninth Jedi, Child of Hope, Yuko's Treasure, The Smuggler, this is the one by Trigger, so I'm really excited, The Bounty Hunters, The Song of Four Wings, The Bird of Paradise, and Black. And some of the themes of these episodes mirror some of the main tropes from the Skywalker saga. They're not related, but they do play with the themes of Inquisitors. There is a Jedi Purge, I believe, this season. Not Palpatine and not Order 66, but in the original trailer audio, which I can't play because I will get in trouble, it is implied the Jedi are in hiding. And this correlates with some of the stormtroopers patrolling the streets. At one point, a child asked the question, did the Jedi really exist? And he questions if the Force is a myth. So, a lot of pretty cool stuff to look forward to. We also have some cool villains. In the episode The Bounty Hunters, there is a new character called Seven. The same episode has a droid called IVA-4, a bounty hunter droid that is paired up with Seven, and together, they take on various criminal contracts throughout the galaxy. There's also a villainous stormtrooper called Green in the episode Black, and that's going to be the Visions Volume 3 finale. And not to mention one of the most badass villains, in the duel Payback, the Ronin has to fight another Force user, a Twi'lek Sith, known as Ane-san. Now, I was watching a live stream from our good friend Star Wars Santa yesterday, and he brought up a very interesting point about Star Wars animation. So now we're moving away from Star Wars visions. In terms of the main canon Star Wars stories told in this medium, is it time for us to move beyond the Clone Wars? Because at the end of the day, that's really been the primary focus of Lucasfilm animation. The Clone Wars, The Bad Batch, and next year we're getting the Darth Maul show, which is 1 year after the Clone Wars. Star Wars Rebels pushed the envelope, got closer to the original trilogy, but still followed in the legacy of the Clone Wars. It still put emphasis on the surviving Jedi of Order 66. Resistance went all the way closer to the sequel trilogy, but what about an original trilogy show? The point that's been brought up is what is there for original trilogy fans in the animated medium? I understand the main audience of the Clone Wars were prequel fans, especially when we were younger, but isn't it time they explored some of the untold stories of Luke, Han and Leia in the same format, or in a different animated style? I think that's the most low-risk approach they could take with those characters, because the Mandoverse is always risky. It was great to see Luke in Mando Season 2 and Book of Boba Fett, but I don't think they can keep relying on deepfake, or even AI. In animated form, there's no pressure. There are no expectations for the characters to look like Mark, Harrison, and Carrie, and you can show us untold adventures, whether it's during the original trilogy, in between episodes 4 and 5, which many of the Expanded Universe books try to explore, or you could do as I've suggested, post Return of the Jedi. Alongside Mando, Boba, Skeleton Crew, and Ahsoka, you can have a Luke Skywalker animated show that connects Return of the Jedi to The Force Awakens. Because as our friend Star Wars Santa pointed out, as an original trilogy fan, what is Lucasfilm giving you? And that's a really good point. As I covered in yesterday's video, Dave Filoni said he wants Star Wars animation to keep going stronger for another 20 years. And I'm sure he has plenty of ideas. But they need to move the needle. It needs to move away from the focus on the prequel era and the post-prequel era and dive straight into the original trilogy. A great way to test the waters without committing to a multi-season show is start with a Tales of anthology, Tales of the Rebellion, because Tales of the Empire, which we thought was going to explore this, ended up once again following prequel trilogy characters. Barriss Offee's journey from being in prison during Order 66 to joining the Inquisitorius, and then leaving. But there was very little Palpatine, Darth Vader, who by the way they really baited us with. And while Morgan Elsbeth isn't a prequel character, this was her backstory, which had some overlaps. When you title a show Tales of the Empire, you're expecting some of the big guns. I think they should do it, Tales of the Rebellion, and maybe this way you can continue the stories of some survivors from Andor. What do you guys think? Are you happy with the state of Star Wars animation? Why so, or why not? And if you enjoyed this video, my dear friends, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up. Are you excited for Star Wars Visions? I'll be doing a review of Season 3, so make sure to subscribe. And may the Force be with you, always.